October 22nd, 1943, Aegean Sea. Midnight, a German mine detonates. In one blinding flash, the destroyer's entire bow is blown clean off. The captain lies wounded. The bridge is in ruins. The forward gun turret twists backward, its barrels now pointing at what's left of the ship. But here's what the Germans didn't count on. This Greek crew refused to die. For 730 miles through waters thick with enemy bombers and patrol boats, a destroyer with no bow limped home. It was one of the most impossible voyages in naval history. This is the story of the Greek destroyers that terrorized the Axis in the Mediterranean. Ships that shouldn't have survived, crews that couldn't be broken, and a legacy that's been forgotten for 80 years. The setting, Mediterranean death trap, 1941 to 1943, the Mediterranean, 1941 to 1943. For the Allies, this wasn't just dangerous waters, it was a death sentence. The Axis controlled everything. German U-boats prowled beneath the surface, Luftwaffe bombers owned the skies. Italian warships outnumbered Allied vessels 3-1 in the Aegean. And between the scattered islands of Greece, the Germans had turned the sea into a minefield maze. Supply convoys to North Africa, target practice, naval patrols near the Dodecanese, suicide missions. Every voyage was a gamble, and the house always won. But Greece had already lost everything. When German panzers smashed through the homeland in April 1941, the Royal Hellenic Navy faced annihilation. Some ships were scuttled, others were captured. The survivors, they fled to Alexandria, Egypt, with nothing but their pride and a burning desire for revenge. Among them were 2 sister ships, freshly built in Scotland just before the war. Destroyers designed to British standards but armed with German guns. Sleek, fast, deadly. The Vasilev Georgios class. Only 2 were ever completed. Their names, Vasilisa Olga and Vasilevs Georgios. What the Germans did to these ships would haunt them for years. The underdog, outgunned but unstoppable. Greece enters World War II with 10 destroyers, 2 ancient battleships, and 6 submarines. Against them, the combined might of Italy and Germany. The odds were laughable. After the invasion, the Greek Navy was gutted. Vasilevs Georgios, one of the Pride destroyers, was caught during repairs. German bombs sank her. The Germans salvaged and repaired her, pressing her into the Kriegsmarine as Hermes. The ultimate insult. A Greek warship fighting for Hitler. Meanwhile, Vasilisa Olga escaped to Alexandria with a skeleton crew. British command sent her to India for modernization. She returned in early 1942 under Commander George Blessis, ready for war. Then there was Adrias, originally HMS Border, transferred to Greece before commissioning, a Hunt-class destroyer, smaller but lethal. Commander Ioannis Tumbas took command in July 1942. These weren't massive battleships. They were undercrewed, outgunned destroyers operating in the most hostile waters of World War II. But they had something the Germans couldn't quantify. Greek rage. The missions, convoy killers in the killing fields. The Mediterranean became their hunting ground. December 14, 1942. Vasilisa Olga and HMS Petard cornered Italian submarine warship off Malta. Depth charges rained down. The submarine surfaced, crippled. Another kill for the Greeks. January 19, 1943. Vasilisa Olga, with destroyers Pakenham and Nubian, intercepted an Italian convoy off Libya. The transport Stromboli sank under torpedoes and gunfire. June 2, 1943. Off Cape Spartivento, Vasilisa Olga and HMS Jervis engaged another convoy. They sank torpedo boat Castore. The freight ships fled in panic. Meanwhile, Adrias was making her own name. January 27, 1943, depth-charged German U-boat U-553, 360 miles northwest of Cape Finisterre. Weeks later, damaged U-623. By July, she was hunting during the Sicily invasion, sinking 2 Italian torpedo boats in a single night with HMS Quantock. From December 1941 to September 1943, Vasilisa Olga logged 74,741 miles under combat conditions. More than any other Allied destroyer in the Mediterranean, the Germans noticed Greek destroyers were becoming a problem. The confrontation, when everything went wrong. September 1943, the Dodecanese campaign. With Italy's surrender, the Allies saw an opportunity. Seize the Italian-occupied islands between Greece and Turkey. Strategic masterstroke on paper. In reality, the Germans were ready. Paratroopers, naval mines, Luftwaffe air superiority. The Aegean became a slaughterhouse. On September 22nd, Vasilisa Olga transported commandos to Leros. For the first time in over 2 years, the Greek crew saw a Greek island. 4 days later, September 26th, Vasilisa Olga and HMS Intrepid entered Laki Bay at dawn. Sunday morning, the crew relaxed, unaware German reconnaissance planes had spotted them. At 11:15 a.m., 25 Junkers Ju-88 bombers swarmed the harbor. Bombs fell like rain. Vasilisa Olga took multiple direct hits. Fire erupted. Within minutes, she was listing hard, flooding uncontrollably. Commander Blessas, 6 officers and 65 crew members went down with her. The most successful Allied destroyer in the Mediterranean was gone, but Adrias was still fighting. October 22nd, weeks after Vasilisa Olga's loss, Adrias conducted a raid near Kalymnos with HMS Herworth. They never saw the mine. The explosion tore Adrias's entire bow off. The forward gun turret flipped backward. 21 men died instantly. The British commander ordered abandon ship, but Herworth hit another mine and sank, taking 143 men with her. Now Adrias, bowless and listing, was alone in enemy waters with no anchor, no compass, no maps. Commander Tumbas made an impossible decision: sail to neutral Turkey. Using only the stars for navigation, alternating power between screws to steer, Adrias limped 30 miles to the Turkish fishing village of Gümüşlük. She arrived at 1 a.m. and beached herself on the sand. For 39 days, the crew worked around the clock to seal the gaping hole where the bow used to be. Meanwhile, German spy planes circled overhead. Across the water, German paratroopers captured Leros. The crew could only watch. On December 2nd, before dawn, locals in Gümüşlük woke to find telephone lines cut, power lines sabotaged, and Adrias gone. The escape had begun. The aftermath: 730 miles of pure will. What followed was one of the most audacious naval voyages in history. Using only the stars for navigation, alternating power between screws to steer, Adrias limped 30 miles to Turkish village Gümüşlük. She beached at 1 a.m. For 39 days, the crew sealed the gaping hole where the bow used to be. German spy planes circled overhead. Across the water, German paratroopers captured Leros. The crew could only watch. On December 2nd, before dawn, Adrias vanished. The escape had begun. Adrias had no bow, no forward armament, limited maneuverability, and 730 miles of hostile waters between Turkey and Alexandria, with 300 miles within range of German bombers based in Rhodes. Tumbas sailed only at night, hiding in coastal coves during the day. British motor gunboats escorted when possible. Turkish fishermen provided fuel in barrels transferred at sea. A German searchlight painted Adrias crossing the Strait of Kos, saved only by sudden rain. Turkish coastal guns mistook her for an enemy and opened fire. She survived by luck. At Castellarizo, British destroyers arrived with a tugboat, but a German plane spotted them at noon. They departed in daylight or risked annihilation. On December 6, 1943, the feast of St. Nicholas, patron saint of sailors, the bowless destroyer steamed into Alexandria at 3 knots. Winston Churchill announced her return in Parliament. The impossible voyage was complete. Reflection: the story that vanished. So why don't we know these names? Why has history forgotten Vasilisa Olga, the most successful Allied destroyer in the Mediterranean? Why is Adrias's 730-mile journey not taught in naval academies? The answer is simple: they were small ships in a vast war. While historians focused on Midway, D-Day, and Stalingrad, the Aegean became a footnote. The Dodecanese campaign failed. The Greeks were allies, but not major powers. Their victories were overshadowed by larger battles. Language barriers didn't help. Greek naval records remained untranslated for decades. The story survived in veterans' memoirs but never reached mainstream history books. Politics played a role too. Post-war Greece descended into civil war. The Navy's wartime heroics were buried under Cold War tensions and political purges. There was no time for glory, only survival. Even the wrecks vanished. Vasilisa Olga still rests in Laki Bay at 32 meters depth, sold for scrap in 1952. Adrias returned to England, bow temporarily repaired, then scrapped. The Germans kept Vasilev Georgios afloat longer. As Hermes, she survived until May 7, 1943, when Allied aircraft crippled her off Tunisia. The Germans scuttled her as a block ship. Full circle, a Greek destroyer, stolen by the Reich, sunk by the Allies. These weren't the biggest ships, but for 2 years they were unstoppable. And then history forgot them. The Greek destroyers died as they lived, fighting impossible odds. Vasilisa Olga sailed 74,741 miles in the deadliest sea of World War II until 25 Luftwaffe bombers brought her down. Adrias lost her bow to a mine and limped 730 miles home on willpower alone. They haunted the German Navy not because they were invincible, but because they refused to quit. In war, the size of your ship doesn't matter. The size of your fight does. Should more stories like this be told? Drop your thoughts below. If you enjoyed this, like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more untold World War II stories. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.